A Mark Brown Arthur chapter book. Arthur and the Comet Crisis. Text by Stephen Krensky. Based on a teleplay by Peter Hirsch. For My Sister Colleen. Chapter 1. As Arthur arrived at school one morning, Fern came up beside him. "Hi, Arthur," she said. Arthur mumbled. "I see you overslept," Fern went on. Arthur blinked at her. "Huh? What makes you say that? You're wearing two different colored socks and your sweater's on inside out." "Why?" She pointed a finger at him. "Because you slept late." Arthur looked stunned. "You're right. That's amazing." Fern tapped the book she was holding. "I'm reading Mrs. Marbles's Handbook for Young Detectives. Deduction is all in the details." Just then Buster came running up. "Arthur!" "Hey, Arthur!" Fern consulted her book. "Aha!" Pant ing, a look of urgency. "He's trying to tell us something." Buster ignored her. "It's happened, Arthur, it's finally happened." "What?" asked Arthur. He stopped himself and looked around suspiciously. "Wait! Not here. They might be listening." "Who?" said Arthur. "The aliens." Arthur thought for a moment. "Are they powerful?" he asked. "Of course," said Buster. "Technologically advanced?" "Definitely." Arthur tried not to smile. "So they'll hear us no matter where you tell me, right?" Buster stopped to think. "I guess." "Well, I'd just gone to bed when all of a sudden I heard a strange noise." Buster was lying in bed holding his stuffed bionic bunny. He could hear a pulsing sound outside. He went to the window and raised the blinds. Suddenly, multicolored lights spilled into the room. And there it was, as plain as day. It was round and silvery with blinking lights. "My first real UFO." "Wait a minute," said Arthur. "I thought you saw a UFO last week." No, Buster said, "that was just the little light on the smoke alarm. This was the real thing. They flew right over my house." "They?" said Fern. "Just how many UFOs were there?" 3. "No, make that 6. "I don't know. There were a lot of them. Anyway, I went downstairs." The grass looked red and blue and green in the light of the saucers. Buster walked outside, still in his pajamas and holding his bionic bunny. A UFO hovered just above the apartment rooftop, with countless other UFOs behind it. Then they made this weird vibrating noise. It wasn't like anything I'd ever heard before. The brain, who had come up while Buster was speaking, started laughing. "What?" said Buster sharply. "Come on, Buster," said the brain. "It was probably just a plane." "Or maybe a helicopter," said Fern. "Oh, yeah?" Buster folded his arms. "Could a plane or a helicopter beam you up and take you 200 million light-years away?" "Is that what happened next?" asked Fern. "Well, no," Buster admitted, "but it could have." "You have to believe me. I really did see something last night." "I hate to tell you this, Buster," said the brain, "but UFOs don't exist." "How do you know?" "They could. There's no concrete evidence for them. Just a lot of crazy theories." They're not crazy theories." Buster sputtered. "They're good theories made up by normal people like me." He started for the classroom. "You'll see. I'll get proof. Then we'll see who has the shoe on the other hand." He went in, slamming the classroom door behind him. Chapter 2. Late that afternoon, Arthur was in his tree house pulling a rope through the doorway. NGGGH. NGGGGH. Just a little more, said Buster. It would be easier, said Arthur, if this thing wasn't so heavy. The rope Arthur was pulling on was tied around a big cardboard box. Buster was lifting it from underneath, but the box was very heavy. I'll be worth it, groaned Buster. You'll see. With a final heave from both Buster and Arthur, the box scraped through the doorway into the tree house and tumbled off to one side. Arthur sighed with relief. Phew! Leave it to Muffy to have the world's largest telescope. I still don't see why we had to lug this all the way up here. Couldn't we have used it on the ground? Higher is better, said Buster. It means we're closer to the action. He pulled off some tape and opened the box. Wow! This is brand new. Never been used. Arthur took a look. It's in pieces, he said. Lots of pieces. Not for long, said Buster. Here are the instructions. He pulled out a pamphlet and opened it. Oh. This looks complicated. Just start at the beginning, said Arthur. I'm sure we can figure it out. Okay. Place the ETX90/EC refractor on the azimuth mount. I said the beginning, Buster. That is the beginning. See? He showed Arthur the top of the page. Arthur sighed. I guess this is what they mean by some assembly required. They started working. Most of the pieces went on easily, but some took a little longer. Neither of them noticed, though, when one knob rolled onto the floor and dropped through the doorway and onto the ground. Hours later, Arthur made the last twist with the screwdriver. He and Buster stood back to admire their work. It sure is a beauty, said Buster. The huge telescope was more than just a big tube of glass and metal. It had a little computer, a printer, and a digital camera sitting beneath the eyepiece. Arthur took the first look. What do you see? Asked Buster. Well, the moon is rising. I can see craters. Hey, there's this old guy waving at me. Really? Oh, very funny. Let me look. Buster took so long that Arthur sat back and closed his eyes. Whoa! Arthur got up, excited. What? What? Mr. Haney has purple pajamas. Buster, you're supposed to be looking at the sky. Oh, yeah. Arthur yawned. I think I've seen enough for now. I'm going inside. Are you coming? I think I'll stay a little longer. Okay. Bye. Arthur climbed down from the tree house while Buster continued to look through the telescope. Wow. Look at it's a plane. Wait a minute. What's that? He pressed a button on the telescope, and the camera took its first picture. Chapter 3. The brain was eating lunch in the school cafeteria when Buster walked up and stood before him. You need to stop eating for a moment, he said. I do, said the brain. Why? So you can feast your eyes on this. He thrust a photograph under the brain's nose. The brain examined the picture. It's very nice, he said. Good composition. Buster waved the photo. Never mind the composition. You wanted proof of a UFO. Now you've got it. That's not proof, said the brain. That's a shooting star. Or, in more scientific terms, a small object, such as a meteoroid, entering the Earth's atmosphere and burning up. Humph. Buster snatched the photo back and stomped away. I'm not done yet. We'll see who's an uncle's monkey, Mr. Smarty Pants. The next day at the library, the brain was cleaning the book return counter when the door opened. Prepare yourself, cried Buster. SSSSH, said the brain. This is a library, remember? Have it your way, Buster whispered. Prepare yourself. The brain folded his arms. For what? Buster brought out several photographs and held up the one on top. For this, he declared. The brain took a look. He yawned. That's not a UFO, Buster. How can you say that? It's much too big to be a star. True, said the brain. And too big to be a spacecraft, as well. Actually, it's Jupiter. Jupiter? The planet. You know, the biggest one in our solar system. Yeah, I've heard of it. He frowned. Okay, then, what about this? He took out another picture. Ah, well, said the brain, that's definitely not a star or a planet. What did I tell you? Said Buster. It's the Crosswire blimp. I read in the newspaper that Muffy's father was starting a new ad campaign for his dealership. A blimp? Buster's face fell. I was so sure. Buster, you have to remember, the night sky is filled with all kinds of things. What about legs? Legs? Yes, legs. Do you see a lot of legs in the night sky? No, the brain admitted, I guess not. Then how about this, Mr. Answer Man? He handed his last picture to the brain. Well. Not a planet, is it? Said Buster. Nope. Not a blimp either, Buster went on. Nope, the brain said again. Buster smiled. Then how do you explain the legs? It's a fly. A fly? Buster laughed. How would a fly get into space? It wouldn't, said the brain. It must have been sitting on the lens when you took the picture. The brain stood up and got a book from one of the shelves. Here, he said. This is a book on astronomy. Instead of asking me questions every 5 minutes, why don't you just see if there's a picture of it in here first? If you're still confused, then we can talk. Buster took the book and slunk away. At that moment, he didn't feel like talking to anyone. Chapter 4. That evening Buster sat alone in the tree house, eating an apple from the basket of food his mother had just brought him. I'll show the brain, he muttered to himself.